The year is 1066. England stands on the edge of transformation. The Saxon crown is contested, and across the Channel a duke prepares to rewrite history. Aethelric, son of a Saxon noble, watches the sky darken with Norman arrows. The clash at Hastings is brutal. King Harold falls. The crown is lost. William the Conqueror demands loyalty. Aethelric refuses. Stripped of land and title, he flees north, becoming a witness to a new age. The Domesday Book catalogues every field, every ox. England is no longer a kingdom of lords, it is a ledger of power. Stone fortresses rise across the land. Norman architecture becomes a symbol of dominance. Aethelric records it all, his ink a quiet rebellion. The Norman flame burns bright, but in its shadow, stories like Aethelric's flicker, unseen but unforgotten. The Norman grip tightens, but across the Channel a new dynasty stirs, the Plantagenets. Their ambition will stretch from Scotland to the Pyrenees, and their legacy will shape the soul of England. Aethelric, now a seasoned chronicler, finds refuge in Anjou. He enters the court of Henry II, a king of law, fire, and fury. Eleanor of Aquitaine, his queen, is no mere consort. She is a force of intellect and rebellion. Henry's reforms birth the common law. Trial by jury replaces trial by ordeal. Aethelric records the shift, not in blood, but in parchment. But power breeds conflict. Henry's closest ally, Thomas Becket, becomes his fiercest opponent. Their feud ends in a cathedral, with Becket's blood staining the altar. Eleanor, imprisoned for defying Henry, writes poetry in her cell. Aethelric smuggles her verses into the world, a whisper of resistance. The Plantagenets rise not just through conquest, but through contradiction. Law and love, crown and cross, each etched into England's bones. The Holy Land calls. In the name of faith, kings march east. Among them, Richard the Lionheart, warrior, poet, legend. And in his shadow, Aethelric, chronicler of a crusade that would shape the soul of Europe. Jerusalem has fallen. Pope Gregory calls for a new crusade. Richard, crowned in Westminster, vows to reclaim the sacred city. Aethelric joins the fleet, not as a soldier, but as a witness. The port city of Acre is a fortress of blood. For 2 years it resists. Aethelric writes of the stench, the starvation, the silence before the storm. When the walls fall, mercy is drowned in vengeance. Across the battlefield stands Saladin, noble, strategic, devout. Aethelric records his acts of compassion, his refusal to desecrate. In the clash of swords, he sees not monsters, but men. Richard and Saladin meet not in person, but through letters and envoys. Aethelric copies their words, respectful, sharp, poetic. A truce is signed. Jerusalem remains in Muslim hands, but pilgrims may pass. The crusade ends not in conquest, but in compromise. Aethelric returns to England changed, not by victory, but by the humanity he found in the heart of war. The crown weighs heavy. England groans under the rule of King John, a monarch feared, hated, and defied. But in the shadows of rebellion, a parchment is born that will echo through centuries. Aethelric, now old and weary, watches the kingdom fracture. Taxes rise, justice falters, nobles whisper of revolt. The king's grip tightens, but his enemies multiply. Led by Robert Fitzwalter, the barons march on London. Aethelric, summoned as a scribe, records their demands. They seek not a crown, but a contract. On the banks of the Thames, under the June sun of 1215, King John meets his barons. Aethelric watches as quills scratch the parchment. The Magna Carta is sealed, not with joy, but with necessity. The charter is broken, restored, and rewritten, but its spirit endures. Aethelric returns to his village, leaving behind scrolls that will one day inspire revolutions. The High Middle Ages end not with a battle, but with a signature. Aethelric's ink has dried, but his words remain. The age of kings gives way to the age of law.